If you're needing a frame for your mosaic or glass on glass, the most cost-effective way is to buy a photo frame from the op shop or thrift store. They generally come in a range of sizes and a range of prices, and usually those prices are extremely cheap. Here's one that I bought. Oh look, I think I've been framed. Oh look, am I actually in frame? I'm sorry, you're a tough crowd. And they come in a range of sizes. So here's a small one, here's a larger one. But there are a few things that you need to be aware of before you begin using them for your mosaic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one that I have created using a photo frame that I actually bought from an op shop. And then I will show you what to look out for when looking for your photo frames. And I'm going to show you that right now. When I'm buying a photo frame from the op shop or thrift store, one of the first things I check for is the integrity of the frame. You know, to make sure that there's no big gaps, it's not going to fall apart on me. I flip it over, I have a look. Something that you can do that helps reinforce the frame is I will put some timber in there, glue some timber onto the corners of the frame, or some metal which you can buy from the hardware store. So it's a one-piece corner piece of metal, and I just screw that into the frame, and that just helps ensure that the stability is there on the frame. But I do check to make sure that it's not going to be wonky, because if it is wonky, then I just won't buy it no matter what the price is. It's not worth playing around. The other thing I tend to do is I take the glass out, because it's generally only going to be 1.5, 1 mil glass, which is what this is. And I replace it with a 3 mil glass, because if you're doing a glass on glass, you want to make sure that the actual glass that you're going to be adhering to is pretty strong. And because you put a certain amount of pressure on the stained glass tessera onto the actual substrate glass, to squeeze out the glue and to get it to the edge and squeeze out any air bubbles, you do use some amount of force. So the last thing I want to do is buy a frame and have 1 mil or 1.5 mil glass in it. So I just replace the glass in the frame with the 3 mil. And what I also do is these little clips here, I generally don't use those. I just put a little bit of silicone around the outside of the frame, and then I put the glass into it, I adhere it in, and then I'll let it dry or cure, and then I will mosaic to the front. Now what I also do is I cover the actual frame up, and I do that with masking tape and also plastic, because for two reasons. A, I don't want to get glue on the frame. B, when it comes to grouting, if you are going to grout, I don't want to have more cleanup with the frame. So that just protects the frame. And what some people do is they actually put the glass in, they mosaic it, they then grout it, and then they put it into the frame. But the problem with that, I find, is that if your frame is a neat fit, it may not fit after you have actually grouted. So by putting the glass into the frame, it's finished. And then you do your mosaic on it, and no issue then. You finish grouting and then remove all the plastic and masking tape off, and you've got a finished piece then. Now if it's not going to be glass on glass, and it's going to be a photo frame, and you're going to mosaic to, like the one that was in that photo that was prior to this clip, and it had I used stained glass and smalty in that. What I then do is get rid of the glass. I then replace the MDF that's in the frame, which is usually only about, again, 2 mil, and I replace the MDF with 3 mil. And I also I use a PVA or Mac glue, and I put a few beads around the edge there, then put that in, put a little bit of weight in there just to push down on it. And then when it's dry, I then remove the weight, flip it over, and I do the same thing as I did with the glass piece. I mask around the outside, I put plastic around there as well, so as when I am using glue or I'm grouting, it's not going to get into a mess. And then when I've finished mosaicing it and grouting it, then I remove the masking tape or the painter's tape and the plastic. You do have to be careful of, if you are using masking tape, that it doesn't stick to the actual frame to the point of it becomes very difficult and takes the surface layer off. I generally use masking tape, and of course that comes in different strengths. One of the things I do before I actually adhere this onto the frame is I seal this all over, front and back, and I seal that all over with a sealant. And you can use Weld Bond and water. It's usually around, well, some people have different formulas for that. I use 1 part of Weld Bond to about 5 to 6 parts of water because you want it to soak in. But definitely everyone has their own formula for that. And then I adhere it into the actual frame. So there are a couple of things that you need to keep a lookout for, because you really do spend a lot of time on your mosaics and you don't want it to fall apart because of the substrate. And don't forget, if you're hanging these, a couple of screws in eye hooks into the top there, and you can hang it without a problem, and the same on the glass on glass. Or you can actually put some wire, some plastic covered wire on the back there, so you can hang it onto the wall. And if you're not really sure, you know, strength wise, you can always put a piece of timber in between or over the top there if you want to. But I find if you're using 3mm MDF, that's enough strength, and your frame's strong. And if you want to protect the corners as well, you can do so with, like I said, some timber or L-shaped metal, screwing it in. And then that's usually enough, and then you just put the plastic coated wire on the back there, screwing it in the sides, and that will hang on a wall nicely. I have that piece that I showed in the previous clip. That was actually, you know, about that size. It was probably another 50% bigger than this. And you can go up to a reasonable size, but just be aware of the weight. That's the big thing. I probably wouldn't do it bigger than what my previous one was that I showed you. I think that's kind of like big enough. But this is just a good alternative if you're looking at photo frames. You want them fairly cheap. The only downside to this is that you can only do the mosaic to the frame, the shape of the frame and the frame size that you actually buy. But look, there's a big range out there, and it's just a matter of finding which one you want to use. You know, if you're going to paint this, you can do that also. I'd do a light sand to get off that surface coating off, and then you could put a primer on it and then paint it. Or in a lot of cases these days, there's a lot of paints out there with a primer already into it as well. Well, I hope those tips help you on organising your next glass on glass or your next mosaic on a frame, and enjoy.